The world as we know it is over.
I kind of saw the writing on the wall, to be honest. So obviously we're gonna have spoiler talks. I mean, the game's, many years old at this point, but I just recently got into it about a week ago. So, I wanted to talk about it with you guys. And some of you guys were telling me in my previous Far Cry 5 video to talk about the ending when I got there. And so I finally did get there. And, we're in Montana, in Hope County. We spent 60 hours roaming the world, playing through the full campaign, killing all of these bastard cultists, these bastard leaders, disgracing the name of God, disgracing everything else because they're fucking crazy, right? And I wanted to stop that. When I first met Joseph Seed and his family, they really pissed me off. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna kill every single one of you bastards. And I hope I get to kill you nice and slow. And that's crazy to say. But these guys, what they were doing in Hope County, Montana, was absolutely brutal. And there was an introduction to each of the family members when you enter Dutch's bunker, and you kind of get to read what's going on. Like John, who John is, who Joseph is, who Jacob is, and who Faith is. And, it was telling me, like, be careful because, Faith might try to trick you or stuff like that. And be careful with John and be careful with Jacob. But to be honest, I didn't need to be careful in the sense of like, oh, these guys might convince me. These guys might change my view of what's going on, because they won't, because they're pieces of shit. And when you see what they do to every part of the region that they are in charge of, you can see why they're so awful. You can see why they're so terrible. You can see why they just wouldn't change my opinion. Like Faith, for example. And one of the notes for Faith, it said, be careful because she's a liar. She's a master manipulator. But when I accidentally roamed into her region, I saw a bunch of people that were, mind controlled or overpowered or overwhelmed with the bliss. And it made them almost into zombie-like creatures. I would never fall for that now because I know that bitch is crazy. And no matter what she preaches, what she tries to tell me, and how she tries to twist it, I know that she is a liar and she's a manipulator, just like John, just like Jacob, just like Joseph. All of them are. But the main guy that I wanted to get specifically was obviously Joseph. John really pissed me off because he was the first one that I ended up going for. That's the first region that I uncovered. Also, my favorite region, to be quite honest. That first region was incredible. I was driving to every location. I almost cleared it out 100%. I mean, all the side characters I met were cool. The priest, the girl that was bartending, I forgot her name, but she was cool. She was cute. I thought we could mess with her. Like, it was just awesome. It was a new world explored, and all the side characters that were great. After John, we moved over to Jacob, and then Jacob was more big. It was mountainous. It was like the mountain region. So I was actually using the helicopter for most of that terrain, and some of the side characters that we met there were also very integral to the story. They hit home, and it was really, really good overall. We moved on to Faith as the final one. That one took me the longest because I started to get a little frustrated with some of the missions that I was doing, because those missions felt just a tad bit repetitive. But again, game overall great. The killing of each of the Seed family members. I'll start with John. John, I was happy to finally kill him because that one took me a really long time. I think I spent about 20 hours before I even killed him because I was exploring everything. He got under my skin with all his stupid ass videos, his stupid preachy mouth, and how he was torturing one of our deputy friends. And so I was like, you know what? I really hope, John, I can shoot you like 2 times in the kneecaps and then beat your ass. But we ended up killing him. I was a little bit unsatisfied with his death because, again, he just kind of died peacefully almost. And I didn't like that. I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more interactive for some reason. I just kind of wanted to beat his ass. But I was overall happy that I killed him. His bunker kind of pissed me off. Just kind of getting into his bunker really pissed me off because it took me a long time to get out of it. Ended up going over to Jacob, like I said, to the mountains. When I finally got my hands on Jacob, he was a lot easier, to be honest. I killed him, and I didn't have the hatred for Jacob that I had for John, but I didn't like Jacob either. Jacob was a bitch, and he was torturing these people, killing these people, kind of trying to twist their reality. He was an awful guy. I took pleasure in killing him as well. Again, I would have wished I would have killed him differently. I wish I could have interacted more with his death. And same thing goes for Faith. Faith, she was the easiest one, maybe, in terms of like difficulty of what we were doing, and she had like the shortest fight. but she did some really fucked up shit, to be honest, and the game really picks up. I think in the order that I did it, I felt it was the best because Faith does some horrible stuff to a lot of our friends, basically in the jail and stuff like that. She makes them kill. She makes them kill themselves, and it's brutal to see, to be honest. You're like, wow. And I was like, yeah, this bitch gotta go. So we ended up killing her, but again, she kind of dies on her own. Like, she's already wounded, and so she goes into the lake and she kind of drowns herself. It's what it seems, at least that's what the vision that I saw was. And then we finally get to approach Joseph Seed, the father. I swear to God, that bitch pissed me off every time he said the father or referred to him as the father. I was like, oh, I'm gonna kill his ass. Before we enter that part, I noticed something throughout my playtime, throughout my 60 hours in Far Cry in Hope County, Montana. And it was that John, Jacob, and Faith all had bunkers. The use of bunkers was extreme in all of these cases. But why did the three main characters, apart from Joseph, because I hadn't seen Joseph, have a bunker? Why did they have bunkers? And I started thinking, this is weird. What's going on here? That's not a coincidence. And then if you pay attention to some of the radio, like if you play the radio during the game, which, to be quite honest with you, I did turn it off because sometimes the radio was really, really loud in the car. But whenever I cleared an outpost, I would go to the gun shop to refill my ammo and to check some other stuff maybe that I needed to do. And while I was there, the radio was playing. And the radio was talking about tensions escalating in the world against the United States. Throughout the story, every time the radio came on after big missions or something like that, it kind of updated you on what was going on outside of Hope County, Montana. And basically what you can decipher is that there might have been some political tensions between the United States and other superpowers in the world, and that there was a potential for a war to explode, a war to come out, World War III, nuclear warfare, basically. I was like, okay, this is weird. Something's going on. Bunkers, potential nuclear war going on. But what really got me was when I was doing a mission for Faith, and she had me under the bliss, and Joseph Seed comes out and he starts telling me about the state of the world, the politics, and it actually referred some of the stuff that was going on at that time period in 2018. I think it mentioned like world leaders, I don't know, this and that, a wall being built, and just a bunch of things that were kind of going on at that particular time that are still relevant, I think, to today's political, I guess, view of the world, right? It's still relevant. If you play Far Cry 5, you could still make a lot of connections to what's going on today. And so he made this whole speech about that. And then he looks behind him and he looks and there's this like big nuclear explosion. And I was like, yo, this fucking game better not end with a nuclear bomb going off and everybody dying. And I was like, no freaking way. And so we end up playing the final mission. We finally get to Joseph Seed. We approach Joseph Seed's compound that we approached at the beginning of the game. He gives me another speech. He tells me, walk away and leave me be. I chose to resist. I chose to stay and fight. We ended up fighting. We free all our friends. We finally arrest him. And as we're arresting him, a big ass explosion goes off in the mountains. And he starts rambling, telling me like, God told me this, finally, I've been waiting for so long for God. And I was like, this bitch, like I cannot believe that just happened. And the explosion just starts engulfing Hope County, Montana. We make a run for it with our main three friends, with our two deputy friends and the sheriff Whitehorse. And so we end up getting in a truck, put Joseph Seed in it, and we head to a bunker. I guess we might have been heading to Dutch's bunker because I was the closest one. We're going as fast as we can in a car. And the explosion of the nuke going off is insane. It is eerie. It is dark. It is creepy. It is terrifying. It is awful. And obviously one of the main reasons that you don't want to go to war at this point now is because of the nuclear warfare, right? The nukes that have been threatened, the nukes that have been talked about. And you don't really realize how scary and awful that may be. Imagine the hometown that you're in right now, wherever you guys are in the world or in the United States. Imagine you're just sitting here. A nuke goes off. First of all, we're gonna die. But you see this fucking smoke, you see this grand explosion, everything just starts turning a different color, and it's scary as hell because you don't know know what to do or where to go. And so that was the feeling that Far Cry 5 evoked when that nuke went off. And we're making a run for it. There's deer on fire, trees on fire, everything is orange. You can't see crap. And then bam, we end up crashing. We pass out for a second. All of our friends die in that car. Joseph Seed drags me out of the car, picks me up, puts me on his shoulder, and takes me to Dutch's bunker. We end up in Dutch's bunker. We see Dutch dead on the ground, and Joseph Seed gives me another mother effing speech about how he was right, how he waited so long for this, how I took away his family, and now that I took away his family, we were going to spend time together in that bunker, and I was going to be his new family, and I was going to be his son, I was going to be his child, and he was going to be the father. And basically, the game ended there. The game ended with Joseph Seed winning, in a way, Joseph Seed kidnapping Rook, keeping him in the bunker, closing it, and you only spent time with Joseph Seed, and it would seem that Joseph Seed just kept Rook down there with him and brainwash him, talk to him for who knows how long, right? It would have been. And it's a scary thought. Probably tortured, chained up for a long time, unable to move, unable to do anything. And especially if you think for the first few weeks, first few months, how much Rook probably hated that. He was so close to ending everything. He was so close to getting Joseph. He had Joseph. He killed everybody. And then the game ended in the way that it did. And it begs the question, it begs a lot of questions, to be honest. I think the game asked the questions of the political climate of the world, the potential of a nuclear warfare going on, the potential of a World War III, what could happen, the potential of cultists and how far they're able to go to achieve or to do something big. How crazy they have to be to believe something so much that they can turn other people to believe it as well. I don't think that it's a attack on Christianity or anything like that. I saw that was a controversy of Far Cry 5 when it first released, but I think it definitely, shows you how people can twist and try to manipulate others by turning the word of God into a way to benefit them in particular. And that's all it was. He was just using the word of God to manipulate others and really make a mockery of it. And so Far Cry 5 asks you a lot of questions, poses a lot of different answers, and poses a lot of different outcomes. And I think that's where the beauty of Far Cry 5 is. I don't think personally that I'll ever play another Far Cry game that is as good as Far Cry 5 for my liking. I know that there's other Far Crys. I know that this one may not be the best one, but for my point of view, for what I wanted, what I was looking for when I found Far Cry 5, it was exactly what I needed. I got it out of my system and I'm happy with what it was. The ending, I'm not going to say that I'm not disappointed because I wanted to kill Joseph, and only for that reason. I wanted Joseph dead because he just taunted me throughout the whole game, and I really wanted to see him suffer. I really wanted to see him get what was coming to him. And so not being able to kill Joseph felt disappointing, but I understand what ended up happening happened. But what pissed me off the most is that this warfare, this nuclear warfare, this World War III threat was prominent and prevalent throughout the beginning of Far Cry 5 all the way to its end. I'll tell you right now, Joseph didn't hear the word of God, okay? I don't think he heard the word of God. I think he got very fortunate that all his bullshit coincided with tensions escalating outside of Hope County. And I think it was extremely fortunate that by the end of his speech, when we finally had him, the nuke finally went off and tensions reached a boiling point. I think it was extremely fortunate, and I think it fed into his delusion that he was a voice for God, that God was speaking through him. And that pissed me off even more because I was like, you think you're right, you think you won, and it's just crazy. And in a way, he really did win. He did win in the end. I won in a way as well because I was able to destroy everything that he had tried to build. I destroyed all his family. I killed his brothers. I killed his wannabe sister. I killed them all. So he was hurting. He was hurting, especially when you see him crying and the snot's coming out of his mouth. He was in pain, and nothing can take that away from him. I hurt him, and so he kidnapped me, and he probably hurt me too, but I had his ass. I had his ass, and that's what I wanted most of all. At least he was suffering because he's a bitch. So Far Cry 5 was an incredible game, incredible soundtrack, incredible antagonist. All four of the antagonists, should I say, were sadistic, crazy psychopaths, and they all really kind of had something unique that kept you coming back, kept you wanting to kill them. And that was the point. You wanted to attack them. You wanted to get back at them. I will say though that it did feel a little disappointing, me kind of clearing out Hope County and helping everybody. I would help random people on the streets. I loved Hope County. I loved the resistance against the cult. I loved that we were getting together and we would set up new outposts and we would take over those outposts of the cult, and it would be like our new hubs. And I loved the little music they played and kind of the little montage and everything, and it all kind of just went to shit. And it all didn't mean anything. In a way, it didn't mean anything because of the destruction of all Hope County. And so I don't know. That was the ending that I got. That's what ended up happening. I will now diverge from talking about the ending of the game to talking about the other two endings. I believe that one of the endings is where you're about to arrest Joseph Seed at the beginning of the game. If you don't arrest him, I think you end up leaving. Nothing ends up happening. Okay, that's one of the endings, secret endings. Far Cry does that a lot. And then the walk away ending, which apparently I haven't seen anything on it, but what I've read online is that the walk away ending, you, Rook, end up leaving. You go to the National Guard, you contact them, the National Guard comes in, they arrest Joseph Seed, and they save and release your friends. And the bomb never goes off. So if you think about it, Joseph Seed said that pride was the biggest problem with Rook. And in a way, if maybe if myself, and Rook would have put our pride aside and said, okay, let's leave and see what happens, then everything might have been fine because the bomb doesn't go off for some reason, and Joseph Seed is arrested and your friends are liberated, and Hope County is safe either way, and you still were able to kill his family. So that it begs that question too. You know, sometimes it's better to walk away. In most cases, it's better to walk away, guys, no matter what. I mean, if you're in a fight with somebody, if someone cuts you off, if someone threatens you and tells you, hey, come out here, if you want to be a tough guy, which I think a lot of us have that by default, it could get us killed sometimes. And in a way, Far Cry 5 did that. Joseph Seed posted a choice, hey, leave. But we didn't want to leave. We said, no, we're going to get you. Sometimes walking away is the best thing to do. And so again, that ending for some reason changed things dramatically. I don't know about the canon or non-canon stuff in Far Cry. I'm not that integrated with the world. All I know is Far Cry 5. But what I read is that the walk away ending, quote unquote, was supposedly the canon ending, because all the Far Cry games, they're maybe sometimes loosely connected, but then one of the developers said that they kind of take place in their own universe, in their own world, yada, yada, yada. I also read that Far Cry New Dawn takes place in an alternate timeline where you chose to resist, and the walk away is the canon ending because Far Cry 6 takes place after. So I don't know. There were so many different things that were going on when I was doing research and looking at some of the stuff online. I went down a rabbit hole of New Dawn and what ended up happening to Joseph Seed, what ends up happening to Rook, because to be quite frank, I did not want to play New Dawn. It didn't seem like something that I would enjoy, to be honest, as much as I wanted to get Joseph Seed and as much as I would have liked to learn more about what kind of happened afterwards. Far Cry New Dawn just doesn't seem like it for me. And I don't know, I don't want to ruin it or taint it too much. To be honest, the rabbit hole that I went down kind of told me about Joseph Seed coming out of that bunker 17 years later in New Dawn, and he's an older man. He's kind of delusional. Rook ends up coming out too, and he's this new character called the Judge, and all this stuff ends up happening. Like basically, you know, Rook got brainwashed as well by Joseph Seed in there because he spent all those years, 17 full years in there, because, you know, he was kidnapped. And who's gonna survive 17 years with a crazy bastard like Joseph Seed? No matter who you are, even Rook, our character, would succumb to his BS at some point. It said that Rook felt guilty for everything that happened, and he asked for forgiveness, and he became this new character, the Judge, to try to cleanse the sins of, you know, Hope County and all that stuff. So honestly, all of that, to be quite honest, everything that happens in New Dawn disappointed me a lot more than I think you guys probably care to even want to hear about. It almost ruined the ending of Far Cry 5 for me, like my personal thing, because I would have maybe even just like for it to remain ambiguous. I don't know what would have happened, and I would have just kind of left it at that. I could have made my own thing in my head. Sometimes it's better not to know. Disappointment in Far Cry New Dawn, even though I didn't play it, just kind of the story beats and kind of what happened disappointed me. But overall, Far Cry 5, the ending of that game by itself, I mean, it was definitely one of the better endings that I've played in recent video game history. I mean, the game took risks, you know, and that's, you know, we cover Call of Duty a lot here on the channel, and I, you know, want to relate to it sometimes. And I think that one of the things that Call of Duty stories miss is the risk taking. Look at the risk that Far Cry 5 took. Yeah, I kill the Seed family, basically all of his siblings, and he hurts because of that. But it wasn't all rainbows on my side. I liberated and helped a lot of people, but a lot of my friends died. You know, a lot of the people that we knew died. And then our most closest friends that we saved throughout the story of Far Cry 5 ended up dying as well. Choices have consequences, and Far Cry 5 does that greatly, to be honest, greatly. And then if you ask me, well, where would you rank this game in this ending? I really don't know. I think it's up there with one of the better games that I've played recently. There's a lot of memorable things. It filled the itch that I had to play a longer open world loud crime story game. I wanted something new, something like that. And Far Cry 5, it did it. I don't know that I'll ever be able to play another Far Cry game. If I'm being fully honest with you, I don't know if I'll revisit a Far Cry 3 or 4. I don't know if I'll ever revisit Far Cry 6. I don't know if I'll ever play a Far Cry 7 or 8, because this one really called to me. This one felt good. And this resistance, building this resistance and fighting against the cult, was something that I don't know if I want to repeat in another game, But Far Cry 5 was great. Great characters, great ending, great everything. Honestly, a very good game. And I'm actually glad that I was able to get into it and glad that I was able to complete it.